Welcome back to 3D Printing Club. Today we're going to learn about customizing 3D models. We'll be starting with free STL files downloaded from the internet that we can then add on to and customize. This is a little bit easier than starting your own designs from scratch, and it's really good practice. I recommend looking on Thingiverse.com and MyMiniFactory.com to find and download models. Today I'm just going to show y'all two examples of objects that I customized, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas that you can try out in Tinkercad. First, I need to go to Thingiverse so I can find an object that I would like to customize in Tinkercad. I'm going to use the same box disguised as a book that I made in our first 3D Printing Club video. I'm downloading the STL file onto my iPad so I can upload it into Tinkercad. Now I need to upload the file for the cover of the book into Tinkercad. I don't need the pages of the book because I'm not going to customize those. I'm going to double the size of the book cover as I upload it, so I'll have to remember later to double the size of the pages when I print them so everything will fit together. Once I've got the cover uploaded, I can start adding to it whatever I want. I'm going to start by adding some text. I want it to say Top Secret. If you click the downward arrow next to the word shape in the top menu, there are a handful of different fonts that you can choose from for your text. I'm going to use the serif font. You can use uppercase and lowercase letters, but I'm going to stick with all caps for this project. The text shape in Tinkercad only gives you one line of text, so I'm going to type the two words as two different shapes and then group them together so I can move them both around easily. Now that I've grouped my two text shapes together, any changes I make in their dimensions or angle will affect both lines equally. I'm going to rotate the text 90 degrees so it will fit evenly against the cover of the book. Remember, anytime a number value shows up next to a handle, you can tap it to type in an exact number. Now that I've got it at the right angle, I have to resize it so it'll fit on the cover of the book. The depth doesn't matter because I'm about to use it as a whole to stamp the letters into the cover of the book, but I need to reduce the width and height. Now I'm going to carefully place the text so that it's centered where I want it. I also need to make sure the text shape goes deep enough into the cover to be readable, but not so deep that the hole will go all the way through the cover. Next, I just need to set the text shape to the hole setting and do some last-minute adjustments to make sure the text is etched as deep into the cover as I want it. Once I'm sure about the positioning, I just group the text with the cover. Now I've got my book cover labeled Top Secret, but I want to add one more thing to make sure the message gets across. Tinkercad has a lot of preloaded shapes, and I found one of a little skull. I'm going to add that to my book cover. This is going to be the exact same process I did to stamp the lettering onto the cover of the book. I'm just going to resize the skull to the dimensions I want, line it up with the cover, set it to the hole setting, and group everything together. Once I've got my design looking the way I want it, I can save it using the export button in the top right-hand corner. I'm making sure to save it as an STL file because that's the kind that works with our 3D printer. The next object I want to customize is this simple bookmark I found on Thingiverse. The first thing I'm going to add is the letter C at the top for my first initial. I want to add a little decoration to the C, so I looked through the shape generators and found this shape called a high star, which will be perfect for cutting star shapes into this letter. I'm going to rotate the shape so the pointed tip is pointing down, position it on the letter, and then just duplicate it until I have enough of them to cover the whole letter. I think it would be easiest to work with this shape if I cut off part of it, so I'm just going to pull in a random shape, in this case a square, and make it a hole to cut off the areas I don't need of the high star. When you move things around in Tinkercad, they'll move in certain increments depending on your snap grid setting in the bottom right-hand corner. The lower you set that number, the more fine control you have over how your objects are placed. I'm setting mine on snap to 0.1 millimeter so I can be more exact about how I place these shapes. Now that I've gotten all the high stars in place and set them as holes, I notice that the stars don't appear very big on my letter. I'm going to lower the stars a little further into the letter so they look a little bigger. Now all that's left is to do a little bit more fine tuning before I group the shapes together to cut the holes. I need to resize my letter a little before placing it on my bookmark, including scaling down the height. Now I just drag it over to the bookmark, resize it so it looks the way I want it to, then I can use the Align tool to make sure it's evenly centered with the top of the bookmark. I'm pushing it a little bit further down onto the top of the bookmark so that it's stable, but when I do that, I notice that the top of the bookmark becomes visible in one of the stars at the bottom of the letter. I can fix that by creating another hole in the top of the bookmark. Now that I've fixed that issue, I'm using the Align tool one more time to make sure everything is centered. I want to add one more thing before I finish up. I'm going to drag in some text in a cursive font, and I'm using that to write my name, Camille. I'm going to position it on the middle part of the bookmark and scale it so it's the right size and centered. Then I just reduce the height of the text so it stands out slightly on the bookmark. If it's too subtle to see when it finishes printing, I can always paint it to make it pop. I'm satisfied with how my bookmark looks, so once again I'm going to press the export button at the top right corner and make sure to save it as an STL so I can get it ready for printing. Between now and our next meeting of 3D Printing Club, download something on Thingiverse or My Mini Factory and upload it into Tinkercad to customize it however you want. If you have any questions or problems, feel free to email me and I'll try to help you out. For our next meeting of 3D Printing Club, I'll be issuing our Tinker Challenge. I'll tell you what to create in Tinkercad, and if you complete the challenge, we will print your STL file for free. Check back next week for more information. I'll see you then.